But then it was decided in the Danish parliament that all military troops should out of the city of Copenhagen in the late 1960s. It was under the Cold War. Maybe the Soviet Union would attack and bomb all these military installations within the city of Copenhagen, where a million people lived. So that was the politicians who decided to close this military barracks, and the soldiers were sent out to the provinces of Denmark. So suddenly the military have left this area, and there was a lot of empty buildings and empty space. So young people squatted this place in the summer of 1971, 40 years ago. Of that age, later called the Youth Revolt, the 68 generation, the hippie movement, the anarchist groups, students, artists, also young people having problems. It was a very mixed group of people who squatted all these old military buildings and created the free city Christiania. First decided was this sentence here. Christiania's commitment is to create and sustain a self-governing community in which everyone is free to develop and express themselves as responsible members of the community. So this was stated in a common meeting in November 1971. The common meeting developed in this way that we have a form of consensus democracy where we agree about making decisions instead of making votes. So this is the secret about the unity of Christiania, that we always are united in the decisions we are taking, and also we do what we decide. There was only one rule in the beginning. That was no private cars. Only necessary transport of goods and work driving is okay. No motorcycles, no mopeds, no scooters. People are going around Christiania on foot or on bicycles. Then the people of Christiania believed that hashish should be legalized. For example, something like in the Netherlands, in Holland, where you can walk into any coffee shop and buy 5 grams of hashish. Danish politicians never wanted to legalize the cannabis. So it has always been forbidden in Denmark. Nevertheless, we accept it here in Christiania, and you find it here in Pusher Street. They trade with marijuana and hashish, and because they're doing something illegal, they don't want to be photographed. So remember that. Don't take photographs or films here in Pusher Street. We have problems with hard drugs in the first years. So in 1979 we decided in a common meeting that we will make a junk blockade and a very square rule saying no hard drugs in Christiania. So out here we do not accept heroin, cocaine, amphetamine and all these modern designer drugs. That's completely banned. In the beginning of the 1980s we have a very unpleasant group of people here they call themselves Bullshit. It was a motorcycle gang, and they were in opposition to the Hells Angels. So there was a whole rocker war in between those two groups in the beginning of the 1980s. These are Bullshit people. They wanted to take over the hash market here in Pusher Street, and they were very violent kind of people. That was why we made these rules. No violence, no weapons, no biker collars, no bulletproof clothing. Now they actually lost that war against the Hells Angels and all the supporter groups to Hells Angels, and vanished here from Christiania and Copenhagen as such in 1987. That was the end of Bullshit, and they stopped being a group. But we still have this set of rules. We do not want one more time that a violent group of people are coming here to make terror here in Christiania. Some people found it profitable to sell illegal fireworks and burn out tunnel flashes and sell stolen goods in Christiania. We don't accept that. So that's the rules we decided through the years. One more rule, which is not on this poster, is you cannot buy or sell apartments or houses in Christiania, and it doesn't matter how much money you spend building up a house. You cannot sell it at the time you move out of Christiania. It's the people in the area. And we have 14 different areas here in Christiania, and in each area people are like kind of governing themselves. Often there's an area meeting where people decide what to do in the area, and especially when there is a vacant place, They call for a special area meeting, invite all the applicants to come to this meeting. And then there was first a round with all the applicants explaining why they want to live there and what they want to do here in Christiania. And then it's up to the local people in the area to decide who they want to move in. Because what happened also was when there was no more room in the old military buildings, people started moving in with wooden caravans on rubber wheels or built houses themselves. And today we live 900 people here, 650 adults and 250 young people under 18. And we do everything ourselves. We maintain the whole area ourselves. We are running our social and cultural and business groups ourselves here. And we pay everything ourselves. We have a common budget of 25 million kroner a year. And the money is collected in this way that all the adults, 650 people approximately, then also we have 250 young people under 18 and they live here actually for free of charge. But all the adults pays 1,900 kroner a month to the central funds of Christiania. Plus you pay for the consumption of electricity and water after meters.
But you consume electricity from the Danish government, or you produce your own electricity?
No, we have an energy corporation called Dong, and they are delivering the power to the city of Copenhagen, and also we pay for that. So we pay for the amount of kilowatt hours and cubic meters of water you consume, and there's meters in each home. Also commercial businesses, they pay normal taxes and sales taxes to the Danish government, but also they pay to the central funds of Christiania. So in this way we collect 25 million Danish kroner a year. And some people are working for the community, paid by this kind of money. And we maintain the whole area ourselves, including the sewers, the water supply, the electrical cables, the houses, the roads. We have a gardener group, we have a garbage collecting group. We have, here out in the north area, we have a nursery, a kindergarten and a horse riding club. And we have clubhouses for the children after school hours. And then we have a youth club here in the other end of the building. We have all kinds of activities here, and very soon Christiania also became a new meeting ground, especially for the culture for the youth. Especially it was theater and music, but we also festivals. We have a lot of festivals here in Christiania. So it became a very used area for young people in Copenhagen. And as the years passed, also now we are a really big tourist attraction here in the center of Copenhagen, and lots of tourists are coming. If the weather is good today and the sun is shining, lots of people are coming to visit. Because also it's a very nice green area here in the center of Copenhagen, so many people use this area for recreation reasons. And of course we gain some money from all these tourists, so that gives Christiania a good economy, because they spend their money in all our different activities here. For the first 18 years from the whole thing started and until 1989, Christiania developed in the way the people wanted it themselves, and the only thing the authorities mingled into was this illegal hash market. The police often comes here to close down that market, but at the time the police is not here, trade go on as usual. So now they tried to close down that hash market for 40 years, and they haven't succeeded doing so.
But they are allowed to get into the Christiania, the policemen?
Yes, they don't ask for permit, they just come. Because they have to enforce the Danish laws also here in Christiania. So that's why they're coming very often to close down this hash market. And okay, of course also it gave us problem that we have this relaxed collation with hashish here. So the right-wing politicians in the parliament very often talk about closing down Christiania, but they never did it. So at last, after 18 years, they made a special law for the use of the Christiania area in 1989. And following that law, we actually got the collective right to live here and govern ourselves. We made a collective contract with the Ministry of Defense, which for many years was the owner of this area on the state's behalf, because they have been old military area. And also the Ministry of Environment made a local plan for this area. And we followed the rules, we followed the law, we followed the collective contract, and we followed the local plan. But all this was changed here in 2004, because in 2001 we had an election for parliament, and suddenly there was a right-wing majority in the Danish parliament. So that was very unfortunate for Christiania, because here in 2004 they made a law for the alteration of the law of the use of the Christiania area. And we were kicked from the Ministry of Defense to the Ministry of Finance. Now everything was about money. And they made a future plan for the Christiania area. And of course we tried to have influence in this plan. So we have many meetings with this Ministry of Finance, but no results. We tried to argument for to make a self-owned institution, a foundation for all of Christiania. But what they offered us was actually a very empty foundation. We shouldn't own anything. The foundation should organize all the commercial businesses, and all the social and cultural activities should be organized within this foundation, which actually turned out just to be a collector's office to collect the rent from all these activities and pay all the money back to the Ministry of Finance. So of course we didn't want to have a foundation like that. In the same area also they have plans to build up to 24,000 square meters of new apartments, which will indicate that all the small green areas will disappear in up to 6-story concrete buildings. And that we thought was a very crazy idea. We didn't want that. And the worst thing, now also they want to get rid of all the self-constructed houses, and all the trees and bushes should be knocked down here around the old defense ramparts, because this is a part of the old fortifications around Copenhagen. You see, we have a map here for year 1700. At that time, Copenhagen was a small town, but there was ramparts and waters all around Copenhagen for the defense of the city. And it's this part up here, which is today Christiania. You see originally lots of water around. Later they filled up inside the ramparts and built this military base here. But now they want to restore this fortification. It should look like it was when it was built in the 1680s. Also over here on what we call Dyssen, the outer defense ramparts. And of course we couldn't accept that they want to get rid and destroy all these caravans and self-constructed houses and knock down all the trees and bushes. We thought it was a really crazy idea. We claimed that we still got the right to live here and govern ourselves. That right the Danish Parliament gave us back in 1989, and it was also stated in this collective contract we had for many years with the Ministry of Defense. And we thought that they couldn't just change the law and take away our legal rights. But we lost the lawsuit at the lower courts, then we went to the Supreme Court, and then we lost the lawsuit one more time. So now it was stated that the state owned this area and the state could decide what should go on in this area. So in this way, they actually forced Christiania to accept to make a foundation, and the Minister of Finance, he was in a better mood. Now he will actually got right to have what we say in Danish, have a feather in his hat. That is to make a final solution for the Free City Christiania. And very probably we will have a change of government and a social democratic led government after the next election. All opinion polls shows this. So he would like to be the minister who made this solution for the Free City Christiania. So actually he accepted what we wanted in the first place, a self-owned institution, a foundation for all of Christiania. Now we are able to make such a foundation. We cannot buy the whole thing. We can buy this area here with all the houses now for 76 million Danish kroner, plus including the houses here. We can buy the houses, but we cannot buy the land the houses is located on. That land is not for sale because it is the memorial parts of the old fortifications of Copenhagen. And out here, they don't want to sell us the houses here and on Dyssen. So here we will rent these areas and these houses for 6 million kroner a year. So that will be very costly.
Yeah.
Also, they want to have 40 million kroner for construction grounds, or we can decide ourselves where to build new houses in Christiania. But they will also reduce the payment of this 40 million kroner for the work we are doing ourselves here to maintain all the streets and sewers and water supply and electrical cables, and we have a gardener group taking care of all the nature, and they will accept bills for all these things we do ourselves. So we don't think we have to pay this 40 million Danish kroner for construction grounds, because we can use the money for maintenance of Christiania instead. And they have accepted that.
How is managed? Is there a government or something like that?
The common meeting is the highest authority, and we have a cashier to collect the payment for all the citizens in each area. We have a head cashier making all the accounts, paying all the bills. We have a cashier for all the commercial businesses, and we have an economical meeting. So when we decide something, we call for the common meeting and we agree about making decisions.
But you have to be agree everybody.
Yeah.
We cannot.
How do you agree?
You have percent.
Not everybody is coming to every meeting. It's not like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we are 650 adults living here, and the biggest meetings is in about 250, maybe 300 people coming to a very important meeting. So it's actually less than half the people coming to a meeting. But then it's of course communicated out to all people
Yeah, but
living in
when you
Christiania
decide-
was decided in this meeting.
And when you decide you have a new law or a new something, and you have to vote or something like that.
We do not make votes.
I don't know how is the way.
We try to argue with each other, have a dialogue, as we call it here in Denmark, about the problems, suggestions to how to solve these problems. And then it's through this debate we find out what is the mood in the assembly, what do people really want us to do here in Christiania. It's very difficult to explain. You have actually to live in Christiania to attend these meetings to understand how it actually is decided.
But there's some people that is controlling the meetings to moderate. That now you speak.
We have of course a group who's arranging the meetings. For example, here we have these decisions about making these foundations and all the details in this contract we made with the government about it. We had a collation group who's actually having meetings in the Ministry of Finance, and they come back to Christiania, so they actually sit by a table in the meeting, and people from the crowd ask these people about all the details.
Yeah,
here it doesn't matter how many or how few people are. Okay, if it is very few people who comes to the meeting, we have to call for a new meeting.
Yeah.
But if we are around the 200 people in the meeting, we have the possibility to decide. It's not necessary in Christiania that everybody is coming.
Yeah, sure.
to
It's
every
impossible.
meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how do you see the future of Christiania?
Yes, it will be more expensive to live here in the future. So we have a plan to maybe we can finance some of all these many million Danish kroner to make people's shares, we call it, to sell pieces of paper as a document that people actually are supporting Christiania with so and so much money. So some people are working on that idea. So because otherwise it would be rather expensive to live here in Christiania in the future.
Because you have business into Christiania?
Yes, we have many small businesses.
Kind of hotels or hostels or something?
No hostels, no. No.
Maybe you can create an eco-hostel or something for tourists?
Yes, but all the buildings is occupied already, so we do not have space and to do so. There was once upon a time a hostel here in Busser Street, but it went very bad in hard drugs and infections in the mattresses, and it ended up with all the mattresses was burned on a big fire. So that was the end of that hotel. And that was in the beginning of the 1970s. And ever after we didn't have any hotel or possibility to accommodate tourists here.
And
We have many supporters around the world
Yeah.
who loves Christiania and often comes here.
Also in Denmark, the people is agree
Yes, the majority of the Danish people really likes Christiania.
And the new generations of people from Christiania.
Yeah, we have spread in all ages. People are having children, so now we are actually 3 generations of people living here. Most people in the 30s and the 40s, but also many people in the 60s, like me, who was young when Christiania started. Many of us have lived here ever after we moved in here many years ago.
But where are they going to live? I mean, you can build a new house or something for a new
Now we have
house?
possibility in the future to build new houses, but before we can do that, it should be decided in the Copenhagen City Council
Okay, because you
exactly
don't
which
know.
construction grounds. Because this local plan for the area have to be renewed, and it's up to the city of Copenhagen, because they have been waiting for the final solution in between Christiania and the state. So now they can act to make a local plan which will describe exactly where we can build these new houses.
What about the education? I guess you have your own school and
We do not have schools. All the children goes out in normal schools out in the city of Copenhagen.
Okay.
And the closest school is just here on the other side of the street, the local city school, so most of the children goes there. Also we have a high school down the street, and many of the children continues in high school there.
And everybody who live here make works for Christiania, or there's people that only live here.
No, also we have people living out in town working in Christiania. And also, of course, the other way around, people living in Christiania working out in the city of Copenhagen. So it goes both ways.
And if I want to live in Christiania, what should I do?
It's very difficult right now. We have for a long time been unable to house people because they have this demand to demolish all the self-constructed houses and all the caravans here around the old defense ramparts and here on the other side of the lake. And all these people should be rehoused in all the vacant places. Now they're not talking about demolishing all these houses anymore. They're not talking about knocking down all the trees and bushes anymore. They dropped that part of the plan. We have to move 7 houses from one location to another. And within 10 years we have to move 10 more houses. Now we are back to the old deal like it used to be before. That if there is a vacant house or apartment in an area, the area will call for a special area meeting and invite all the applicants to come to this meeting. And then there's a round with all the applicants, and the local people in the area decides who they want to move in. The easiest way is actually to find yourself a sweetheart living here, because that have been working for all these years. It doesn't matter what rules they made in the Ministry of Finance, because if you find yourself a sweetheart already living here, you can move in with your sweetheart without any acknowledgement from the Ministry of Finance or any meeting in Christiania. You just move in. Many people came into our small society that way, because that was the easy way.